Hi, welcome to Shasan. Shasan is a competitive, high-octane political strategy game where each player is a politician competing for power. When the heat is on, what will you stand for? Each player selects a player mat and its corresponding set of voter pegs. Place the public reserve and the HQ mat around the board as is convenient. The objective of the game is to be the most powerful politician in the country. As you can see, the country is divided into 9 zones. Each of these zones have a different number of seats available. The second number is the total number of pegs that can fit into a zone. And the first number is how many you need to form a majority there. For instance, the East zone has 17 voters total, and you need only 9 of them to form a majority there. This Northeast zone needs 6 out of 11 voters to form a majority there. The game ends when all majorities have been formed in all zones. The person with the most majority votes wins the game. Your total number of pegs on the board do not matter. Only the voters used to form majority count towards your final score. I repeat, the popular vote doesn't necessarily win. As a politician, you have 4 resources at your disposal. That's funds, media, clout, and trust. They are the lifeblood of your campaign. Players have a resource cap of 12. Any additional resources over 12 must be discarded before a player can continue with their turn. The first player gets 1 resource of their choice, the second gets 2, the third gets 3, and the fourth gets 4 resources. This is only applicable in the first turn to balance the first player advantage. All players now vote to determine who starts as player 1. In case of a tie, vote again. Players cannot vote for themselves. Yeah, you, stop voting for yourself. Turns are in a clockwise order. At the start of a player's turn, the player on their right draws a card from the deck of ideology cards and reads it aloud to them. These ideology cards hold contemporary policy questions with a different answer on each side, giving you a separate set of resources. Both answers belong to different ideologies, denoted by the colored band at the bottom of the card. As players answer ideology cards, they build their ideologies over the course of the game and unlock ideologue powers. Do not show the card to the player while reading it out to them. Depending on the kind of answers you'll be giving and the kind of politician you'd most likely want to be, you'll get certain resources, which in turn will help you influence these voters on the table. Let's talk about buying voters. Influencing voters. At all times, there'll be 3 vote bank cards open on the board. Each vote bank card is unique and denotes a combination of resources required to influence the number of voters in it. You can spend these resources to influence voters and put them on the board. After influencing a vote bank card of 1, 2, or 3 voters, you must place that many voters on the board in any zone. After forming the majority in a zone, flip over as many voters as were required to form that majority. A new vote bank card opens as soon as one has been purchased. Sometimes you don't have the right combination of resources for a desired voter bank. This is when you can ask your opponents to trade one of your resources for one of their resources, but only 1-for-1 trades. If that still doesn't work out, you can buy a conspiracy card. Conspiracy cards offer a variety of offensive and strategic maneuvers that players can purchase. They can cost 4 or 5 resources, denoted by the figure on the back of the card. They can be paid with any combination of resources. You can play a conspiracy card anytime during your turn and before or after someone else's turn. Some seats are marked. These are called volatile zones. The peg that's placed into a volatile zone will have to deal with a headline card from the headline deck. Headline cards are a set of unpredictable events that demand adaptability, negotiation, and damage control. Headlines are read at the end of a player's turn. Tread lightly. There are a few advantages of getting majorities fast. One of the biggest advantages is the power to gerrymander. Once you've successfully formed a majority, your gerrymandering power is unlocked. Forming a majority in a zone gives a player influence in all neighboring zones with shared boundary lines. The players can now gerrymander, that is, move around one voter in adjoining zones every turn. Players can gerrymander a voter into an adjoining zone, into their majority zone, or in between two adjoining zones. The larger the zone, the more zones it can gerrymander. But the more difficult it is to capture, as more places can gerrymander you. Pro tip: when you can gerrymander, gerrymander. It's your strongest power. Don't take it lightly and use it to your advantage. Two players can jointly form the majority in a zone and control it together by forming a coalition. The total of their combined votes must meet the majority requirement of that zone. In a coalition, players can split the majority votes in any ratio. That's open to negotiation. When two politicians of opposing ideologies form a coalition, there has to be an ideological compromise. When a coalition is formed, the two players must exchange an ideology card with each other. This card must belong to the ideology that they hold most cards of. This represents the cost of ideological compromise. The gerrymandering power of a zone can't be used when a coalition is formed there. Coalitions are not sacred. They can be broken at any point. Trust me, everything breaks. There are 4 ideologues in the game: the capitalist, the showman, the supremo, and the idealist. These are powerful leaders with contrasting political ideologies. As the game progresses, you will answer more questions and accordingly build your ideology as a politician. As you build one kind of ideology, you unlock different levels of power exclusive to that ideology. Every ideologue also has a passive power. For every 2 ideologies of a single type, players get 1 corresponding resource at the start of their turn. 4 ideology cards of a single ideologue unlocks the corresponding level 4 power. Similarly, 6 ideology cards of a single type unlocks the corresponding level 6 power. Now let's say you've given 2 fun answers. Capitalism is slowly becoming your friend. Becoming a capitalist has its own perks. Now at every turn, you get 1 free fund. Now you've reached level 4. The capitalists are warming up to you. So now you have a free market. You can trade 1 resource to get 2 resources from the bank each turn. Accordingly, each ideologue gives you different kinds of powers. You can find the information on the ideologue cards and on your player mats. So this is how your typical turn will go. You answer an ideology card, discard extra resources, and then you can do any number of moves in any order you like. To recap, the game ends when every majority has been formed. As you can see here, player green has a majority in the north zone worth 11 points and a majority in the northwest zone worth 6 points, bringing their total to 17 points. Player purple has a majority 2 zones, the west zone that is worth 9 points and the central zone which is worth 5 points. This makes their total score 14 points. Player pink has 2 majorities in the southwest and southeast zone worth 6 points each. Additionally, they've also bagged 4 points in the south zone by forming a 7-4 coalition with player blue, securing a total of 16 points. Player blue has secured the east zone for 9 points and the northeast zone for 6 points. They have also earned 7 points from the coalition in the south. This brings their total to a massive 22 points. After a well-contested battle, player blue has emerged victorious at 22 points. In the event that every peg on the board is filled but majorities haven't been formed, the endgame clause is triggered. Starting with the player that cast the final vote, the rest of the players now have 1 final turn each to form or collapse coalitions, use conspiracy cards, negotiate, and try to win the game. Are you ready? Let's go. Hi guys, if you haven't already bought the game, head on over to our website to buy it now. If you have any questions, here's a link to the PDF of the rulebook. We also have a separate video coming out on headline cards and conspiracy cards. Have fun!